I think it's time that we go to Australia, or at least we go to. So take us, bring us now to that. You met her your second to last night. So did you end up staying in Australia?
So I'll just take you back a little bit before I actually went on those travels. That night I won that I spoke about at the start of our conversation. I was
Mm.
always like I'd caused my mum heartache year on year on year every time I gambled, all the damage I always done. When I went home that 7 o'clock that morning with that £10,000 from the casino, my mum's awake, she's getting ready for work, and I'm like, look, £10,000, look what I've won. I know she's like, where have you been? It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I've been to the casino. I'm like, look what I've won. And she's like, you've gambled again. I'm like, yeah, but look. And I've like got this stack of 50s. I'm like, look at this. And she's like, yeah, but you've gambled again. You said you weren't going to gamble and you've done it again. That should have been an eye-opening moment for me that I can't buy the forgiveness. I always thought once I win all this money,
Mm.
I can buy everyone's forgiveness. That should have been a moment that my mum doesn't care about the money. She cares about the mental destruction that I do to myself when I'm gambling. And then that £10,000 I give to my mum, it was 2 weeks before my friends were going traveling. Across that 2 weeks, I actually managed to gamble half of that money, despite it being in my mum's control. I borrowed, so I was the manager in the restaurant. I borrowed from a guy who worked for me. I borrowed from someone who was really good with saving, and I actually borrowed £5,000 from him. I didn't intend to borrow that much. I think I borrowed 100, then it was 200, then 500, and eventually it was £5,000. Luckily, I couldn't. He didn't have any more. I couldn't get my hands on any more. I had to speak to my mum and say, listen, I need £5,000 of that £10,000 to give back to this guy. I remember pulling up outside of work. She comes to the window and just chucks this envelope of money at me and storms off. And I'm like, ooh, I've upset my mum again here. Like I say, my mum was never one for discipline, always wanted me to be happy, always happy around me. So the few times she was angry with me, it was always gambling based. And it should have been like, ooh, I've, I need to sort myself out here. So I was actually fortunate that I could still go traveling. I could still go traveling with the remaining £5,000. Met my wife on my second to last night. I'll go a little bit off topic here and tell you the story of how we met. So me and my nephew my nephew has flew out for the final 2 weeks of my traveling. So he's met me in Sydney. We're staying with my uncle who lives there. So he's got like a little 2 week holiday and I'm just winding down from my travels. And we go to a bar and there's two girls at the bar and I say to my nephew, these two at the bar. He's like, yep, I've spotted them. They go outside for a cigarette, and my nephew goes out to talk to them because we're with two of my other cousins who live in Australia. So I'm sitting at the table with them, and then the first ever time I meet my wife, she's walking up to the table. She's got my nephew by the ear, and she's gone over to it, and she's gone, "Your friend is a racist." So just let me take you back a little bit. So I worked in a Chinese restaurant for 8 years before going out to Sydney before going traveling. So I taught my nephew the swear words. I taught him how to say "go fuck yourself" and "go fuck your blah, blah, blah." I taught him those two things. The only two things I taught him in Chinese. So my wife is Asian and her friend was Asian. So my nephew is outside talking to them and he goes, where are you girls from? And they go, we're Australian. And he's like, no, but where are you from? And they get a bit offended and they're like, we're Australian. And he's like, oh, okay. Where are your parents from? And they go, okay. Well, our parents are Korean. And he goes, Korean? I can speak a bit of Chinese. So the first time I ever meet my wife is her dragging my nephew in by the ear, going, "Your friend is a racist." But the worst part about it was I'd only
Oh
taught
my
him
god!
how to say "go fuck yourself" and "go fuck your mum." I'm like, where were you going to go? If they could speak Chinese, it's not much of a chat. I'm like, I can speak your language. Go fuck yourself. I'm like, where were you going to go with this? So it didn't
Oh,
get
that's
off to
so
the it
good.
didn't get off to the best start ever, but yeah, no, they ended up staying at our table that night
Wow.
and we hit it off. I went took her to the opera house, took her to the opera on the last night, and then she was coming to Europe a few months later, so we stayed in touch. I told her don't go to London, come and see me in Liverpool instead, and she actually came to Liverpool for a full week. We really hit it off, got into a relationship, did long distance for a year, and then it was like it costs too much money every time we want to see each other. One of us needs to move. So as I spoke about earlier, I looked up at the grey skies of England and I was just like, I'll come to Australia. I'll move over there. So I was very impulsive. Like my gambling history shows. I literally at 28, 29 years old, I just packed up and left. Booked the flight to Australia, one way ticket, and and moved over here. I remember thinking, like, how am I going to fit 28 years of my life into 2 suitcases? I'm like, wow, this is going to be very hard. I didn't even fill 1 suitcase. Because of the gambling, I just didn't have any
Yeah.
possessions, any commitments, anything. I was able to fit
Right.
everything I needed into 1 suitcase. I didn't even end up needing the second suitcase. So I knew I was coming over here. I was honest with Julie, my now wife. I told her about my gambling history. I told her I've always struggled with it. I'm trying to get better. So I actually saw a gambling counselor for about 6 months before I moved over here to help me sort of get on top of it. I'd had windows of Gamblers Anonymous here and there. My my results from Gamblers Anonymous were always I'd go there, I'd hear the stories, I'd share my stuff, I'd stop gambling for a few months because I'd be scared, I'd be put off it. After a few months, I'd be like, I can control it. Look, I haven't gambled for a few months. I can go and place one bet. I'd stop going to Gamblers Anonymous, place that first bet. And as I've now learned in recovery, that first bet is the only one that I can control. Once I place that first bet, I'm a headless chicken. I'm out of it. I'd go back to gambling for a year, 2 years, then go back to Gamblers Anonymous. But I was never fully committed to it. Seeing that gambling counsellor really helped me. So when I went over to Australia, I had about 8 months of abstinence. As I got here, Julie had actually found the local Gamblers Anonymous meeting for me to attend. I remember being blown away by that. I was like, this is a girl who I've been in a relationship for a year. I've told her my worst character defects, if you like. I've told her I've struggled with gambling all my life. Most girls would run a mile. She found the local Gamblers Anonymous meeting for me to attend to. I remember being blown away by that. I was like, wow. Like, it was hard for me to admit and tell her this, but I'm so glad I did because she's fully on board with me trying to get help and trying to get better. And I think for about 12 months when I first got it, I didn't gamble. I kept up my meetings. Uh, I was working full time. My credit score in England was just capitulated from all the loans I never paid back, from all the credit cards I never paid back. Once I got here, it was like a new lease of life. Like my credit score had been reset. I didn't gamble for the first 12 months I was here, so I had a regular income every week. I had a savings account for the first time in my life with money in it. I had a credit card that I just had to sort of improve my credit score. I never used it, if you like. If I did use it, I'd pay it back straight away. And yeah, things were going really well. And then so I moved here in 2016, May 2016. In September of 2017, I remember my brother back home in England telling me about this funny money, this internet money. I didn't understand it. I was like, what's like? I remember my mum or my dad calling me and being like, Carl's investing a load of money into this internet money. And I was like, what's he up to now? What a fool. In 2017, September, I discovered Bitcoin, what he was talking about. I didn't discover Bitcoin as an investment. I discovered it as basically leverage trading. So for those who don't understand what leverage trading is, the easiest way to describe it is it's investing on steroids. But basically, it multiplies your investment. So I found a app that I could use that multiplied whatever I invested by 33. So if I put $1,000 in, I could invest $34,000 worth. I could buy $34,000 worth of Bitcoin. But then once it would drop down, so my trade is now worth $34,000. Once it would drop to 33,000, so my original $1,000 investment is gone. The trade would be cancelled. They'd take their money back, and my $1,000 is gone. So it wasn't like an investment where you can ride the wave, you can go down and come back up. Once you get to a certain point, it's called liquidation. Your trade is cancelled. They take their money back, and your money's gone. So I discovered this on a Friday. That Friday night when I went to bed, I was £4,000 richer. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is it. This is what I was meant to be doing. I was in the casinos. I was doing sports betting all those years because that ego thing that I was like, I was made for making money this way. I was like, Bitcoin. Look out, $4,000. I don't even know what I'm doing, and I've just made $4,000 in a day. I'm like, this is what I was meant to do. Perfect. I finally found my calling. We're going for a scenic hike the next day around what's called the Blue Mountains. This lovely, lovely scenic place in just outside Sydney, Australia. So it's rugged terrain. So as you can imagine, the phone signal isn't very good. So I didn't withdraw that £4,000. I left it in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin started dropping down a bit. So I'm like that while we're on this hike, trying to get a phone signal, reaching my phone up as high as I can see my money steadily dropping down. Before I know it, my $4,000 is gone. My initial investment's gone. I used the credit card. I used the money that was in my savings account. I put that in. Within an hour, that's gone. I start using the credit card. By the time I'd left the Blue Mountains that day, I'd lost my initial investment, lost my initial winnings, maxed out this credit card, used all of my savings. After not gambling for like 18 months, within 24 hours, it was just all back again. That 18 months, I didn't do any recovery. I just abstained. I just hidden away from gambling. I just didn't expose myself to it. So as soon as something got me again, I was hooked again instantly, and it was Bitcoin. Because I had a good credit score, because I didn't have any debts in Australia, I was able to get a loan off my bank. I got a loan for $25,000. At this point, Julie doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know about the savings, doesn't know about the credit card, doesn't know I've now taken out a loan. I told them it was for a wedding. It obviously wasn't. And then for about 3 months, I was riding that wave, that $25,000. It was up to 47,000 one day. It was down to 12 the next day. And it was those dopamine hits. Like, the trades were there, and I just pull out my phone, look, and I just get a little hit of dopamine knowing I've got a trade on, put it away, look the next day. And then some days it'd be like, oh, it's really low. And I'd be lying there in bed, refresh. I wouldn't sleep all night because I'm waiting for my money to come back up again. By the end of 2017, I've lost it. The loan's gone. I've been liquidated. Bitcoin took a massive plummet, and I've lost it all. I told Julie what I'd done, but simultaneously I managed to manipulate her to give me one of her credit cards and put that in as a last hurrah. Obviously didn't tell her what it was. I told her it was like, I know what I'm doing. I'll give me your credit card and I'll get some money back. Ended up losing that as well. So 2017 was a really rough year. Julie decided to stay by me. I ended up with $57,000 worth of debt by the end of 2017. Julie decided to stick with me. There was one condition: she now controls the money. I have no access to money anymore. I love this girl more than anything. I want it in my life. I want to keep going with this life in Australia. Yes, where do I sign? Give over control of my finances, get back to my meetings. I actually see a gambling counselor as well. This is the first time I'd done anything else on top of just Gamblers Anonymous. Learned so much from the gambling counselor. GA, I was getting involved. It was face to face. This was 2017, 18, 19, so it was before the pandemic and the world shut down. So it was face to face meetings. I was going to them. I didn't have children yet. I had time to go to these meetings, to go to a gambling counselor. And I did learn a lot, but I still don't think I was ready. I still don't think I was fully committed to it. 2019, Bitcoin starts to pop off again. And I've got no idea what's going on with the finances. We've lived a frugal life for 18 months at this point. And I asked Julie, I'm like, is the debt almost paid off? Because by my calculations, we should be nearly paid off. She's like, no, there's still a way to go. And that triggered me straight back into it, because I thought we had more money, if you like. I thought we owed less money than we do. That triggered me. I was like, right, I need to get this money now. And I ended up going back into Bitcoin again in 2019. Same disastrous results. Because Julie's got control of the finances, I'm sort of having to run everything by her. So when the lockdown first happened, you had this thing in Australia where you could take money out of your superannuation. Basically, you could take money out of your pension. Convinced Julie to take her allowance out of her pension and me to take my allowance out of my pension, and we'll put it in Bitcoin. I promised no leverage trading. I'll just put it in Bitcoin. We'll set it and forget it. It'll just be investing. In a few months, we'll have almost doubled our money and we'll take it back out. She had control of the finances, but she didn't have any access to the actual Bitcoin itself. So it lasted about 3 weeks of me doing what I said I was going to do. And then it just wasn't enough. I needed a bigger thrill. I started leverage trading. And I remember I put it on before I went to bed. I woke up the next morning and I've lost money on this leverage trade. And my first thought is, Julie cannot find out about this. I need to get this money back right now before Julie finds out I've leverage traded. So obviously then I've got the shovel out and I'm just digging. I'm just digging the hole bigger. Every time I gambled up until this point, every time I invested in Bitcoin, I was convinced I was going to win. I was convinced I knew what I was doing. Even though I'd lost every single time previous, I was convinced this next time is going to be the one when I turn it all around. It was never, fuck what they think. I don't care if I upset my mom. I don't care if I upset my wife. It was, I can fix everything. Gambling, got me into this mess, but gambling is what's going to get me out of it. And I was convinced. I was convinced. I'd put a polygraph thing on me, convinced every single time I was going to win that next time. It was going to be that time that I get myself out of trouble. I win all the money back. I can buy my mum a holiday home in Australia. She can come and visit whenever she wants. And yeah, just I went to new depths this time. Without telling my wife that I'd now lost those two investments from our superannuation, I tell her it's going to go really high, really fast. Let's get some more money. So she's got a credit card, I think. Like I said, I don't fully understand where the money was coming from because she's controlling everything. I think it was one of her credit cards and one of mine. She gave me more money to put in. I lose that. I actually find a loan company that's willing to give me a loan. So I tell Julie, right, I'm going to get this loan. I need to run it by her because, like I say, everything's going into the bank account that she's going to see. Convince her we're going to get this loan. Within 2 months, we'll double our money. We'll take it back out and we'll pay the loan off. And we'll end up with all this free money on the side. I get the loan. So at this point, my first daughter has been born. My first daughter was born in November 2019. And my wife is now 5 months pregnant with my second daughter. And I'm just like a madman trying to get the superannuation money back, trying to get the credit card money back. I'm using this loan just recklessly. I end up losing the loan and I'm just like, I have got nowhere to go. I'm like, my wife is 5 months pregnant with my second daughter. She doesn't know I've lost the superannuation money. She doesn't know I've lost the credit card. She now doesn't know I've lost the loan. I'm like, I cannot tell her that I've done all of this. The stress I'm going to put on her, the stress I'm going to put on my unborn baby, I was like, I cannot do it.
Have you ever asked her now why, after she took control of the finances, she started giving you money to do it? Like, did you convince her that this was different? Why did she end up giving you the funds?
I think I was just a master manipulator. I was able to convince her. I
Yeah.
was like, there was one thing that would fuck it all up if she ever asked to look at the Bitcoin. I was able to just bullshit it and say, yeah, it's at this much, it's at this much. If she ever said, can I look at the Bitcoin account? The wheels would have just fell off. For some reason, she never did.
And during this whole time, you're not gambling, casinos, or sports betting. It's just all trading.
Yeah, Bitcoin was my new
All
thing.
trading.
This is how I'm going to make all this money back. This is how I'm going to fix everything. Yeah, my last visit to a casino was 2017. Uh,
Wow.
I come up with the idea of I get in touch with my family back home in England. I speak to my mum. I say, Mum, I need to cover this loan. I cannot tell Julie now. Once she's given birth, I will tell Julie what's happened, what the situation is. I'm like, can you send me the money over to cover this loan just so I can pay this loan back? But not only that, you've got to get it into my crypto account, which I then have to withdraw back into my bank account because Julie can see the bank. If it comes straight from my mum, Julie's going to be like, wait, why is it coming from your mum? I've just spoke about it. I managed to manipulate my mum into sending me. She actually takes a loan out herself in England to send me over this money to then withdraw from my crypto account and tell my wife, I've took this loan back out. We've got enough money in the Bitcoin thing now. Just pay that loan off. So I pay the loan off. I think I had access to the loan company app. I pay the loan off. I screenshot that it's all paid off. Send the screenshot back to my mum, and I'm like, right, it's all done. It's all paid off. In 4 months' time, when my wife gives birth, I'll tell her the situation, what's going on. This is like the moments when I speak about there's me and there's me and my addiction. And this is like one of them times when I'm like, I can't believe I did this. Like just the low points, the scum behavior that I've done. Just it's so embarrassing to recount it. It's horrible to go back to it as well because there's a very emotional moment after this. But the next day after paying that loan off, I've called the loan company and said, I've made a mistake. I was only meant to make a 1 week's payment. I've accidentally paid the whole loan off. Can you give me the loan back, please? Without blink of an eye, they're like, yep, no problem. They put it back into my bank account. I have to bullshit Julie again and say, listen, Bitcoin's really going off now. I'm taking the loan back. We're putting the loan back in. Again, I'm able to manipulate her and she doesn't stand in my way. I put the loan back in to Bitcoin and away we go again. The the final night, like this is the moment when this is the moment when it's game over. There's no way out now. I wake up. It's a Friday night, Saturday morning. I'm in work at like 6 a.m. on the Saturday morning. I wake up at about 2 a.m. and I just look. I can't sleep. I don't want to look at the Bitcoin charts because Julie's asleep next to me. If she wakes up and looks at my phone, she'll see the accounts, not what it should be. So I go downstairs to the couch and I start looking at the Bitcoin charts, and it's going up quite massively. So at this point, I'm on a new leverage trade. I'm using a different app where I can get 100x leverage. So basically, I put $10,000 in, and I can play with $1 million. I can buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin at this point. So I'm just doing insane trades. I'm 6 figures deep between like the loan, the superannuation, the credit cards. I'm about 100 and I think it was 110,000 deep at this point. And I start playing, and Bitcoin is literally it's going up in a straight line. It is like for 2 hours in the middle of the night while I'm playing with it. I have such a good run, and I'm about $3,000 short of getting it all back. Like I'm north of 100,000. I haven't quite got it all back, but it's time for me to start getting ready for work. So I'm like, I have to stop what I'm doing. And I remember looking, and I'm like, yes, you've almost got it all back. You're almost out of this hole. Once you've got it all back, you can stop. And there was a voice in the back of my head that just went, "You won't stop." It was my own voice saying it to me. But I'm just like, nah, just ignore that voice. It's okay. Take the trades out. Go to work that day as normal on the Saturday. By the Monday evening, stroke Tuesday afternoon, it's all gone. Everything's gone back again. 4 days later, that Tuesday afternoon, it's just empty. I've literally been liquidated for the last time. Everything's out. I'm like, I'm fucked. Got to tell my wife what I've done. I've got to tell my family back home what I've done. So for about 10 days, I'm on the verge of like a mental breakdown. I haven't told anyone. I'm just keeping it all bottled up. Like I say, I was a fully functioning addict. I'm able to just keep going through my life, go to work as normal, come home to my daughter and my pregnant wife, and just act like everything's okay. I went to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. I think it was a Thursday night. The Gamblers Anonymous meeting's 8 p.m. So it's about 10 p.m. and it's pitch black. It's dark by the time I'm coming home. And I told all the guys in the Gamblers Anonymous meeting my situation, and they're like, "Stop delaying. You've got to tell her. There's no way out. You've got to tell her." So I do them a deal. I say, if my wife's still awake when I get home, I'll tell her everything. So that whole drive home from Gamblers Anonymous, I'm just like, please be asleep. I'm like, please don't be awake. Driving down the road, I turn right, park up on my driveway. I look at the house. Every light's off. The house is pitch black. So I'm just like, yes, I don't have to tell her. Like, doesn't change anything. I'm still 20 feet down in this hole. There's no way out of this hole, but I just get to live this life for another 24 hours. I don't have to tell her. Walk up to the door, put my key in the door, swing the door open. And the house that I lived at the time is just a long hallway to the kitchen at the back. The kitchen light's on at the back of the hallway. I couldn't see that from the front of the house because it's the very back of the house. And my heart just sinks. I'm like, she's in the kitchen. I've said I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. Close the door, walk into the kitchen. The kitchen's like a rectangular shape as I get in there. My wife's over to the left at the kitchen, at the sink. I just sit down at the table and I just come out with something along the lines of, it's all gone. Everything's gone. But in a bit more detail than that. And my wife, who's facing the kitchen sink as I tell her, stops what she's doing, like turns around. So she's like 5 months pregnant at this point, turns around. She's now got her back to the sink, to the cupboards. She just slumps down to the floor and just lets out this noise, like this scream, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like, just the worst sound I'd ever heard in my life. So me being the gentleman that I am, I try to get up and run over there as quick as I can to comfort her. And as soon as I push my chair back and stand up, she just screams at me, "Don't come near her, leave her alone, don't go anywhere near her." That moment is just like, I've left the room, gone upstairs to go to bed, and I'm just like, how am I here again? How have I done this again? And I said I never often had struggle. Often never struggled going to sleep because that was my escape. But this night I was just lying there and I was like, I still haven't told my family back home. I've still got to tell them tomorrow what I've done as well. And I'm just like, end it all now. It's just like, just I'm never going to stop. Just, I don't want to be here anymore. So I come up with this plan. The old apartment that I used to live in, I still had a key to get up there to get to the roof. And I was just like, I've had enough. I'm sick of living my life this way. I don't want to be here anymore. And I had a thought, just this thought popped into my head of my daughter who's already born. And then at this point, I know I'm having a second daughter who's not born yet. I just have a thought of my two daughters growing up without a dad. And I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. No, I cannot leave my daughters to grow up without a dad. I need to get through this. I need to be here for my daughters no matter what. I'm pretty sure Julie's not gonna stay with me at this point anyway, but I need to be in my daughter's life some way or another. So I'm driving to work the next day and I call my mum, tell my mum what I've done and go to work, act like everything's okay in work. When I get home, my suitcase is waiting at the front door and it's all packed. So I presume, as I'm sure everyone listening right now will be, she is fully within her rights to get rid of you, toss you out and chuck you out. I already spoke about how supportive she was, lining me up for that Gamblers Anonymous meeting when I very first got to Australia 5 years previous to where we are now in the story. She sits me down and she says, I've packed your suitcase. You're going to stay with your uncle who lives in North Sydney. You're going to stay with him for 2 weeks. And then I've got you booked into a rehab centre. You've got a 3-week inpatient rehab centre. You're staying there for 3 weeks. You complete rehab, you come out of it and you can come back home. And I'm just like, again, I'm just blown away. I'm like, how the fuck have I still got this girl's support? How is she still sticking by me after this? The reason she's sending me to my uncle, she obviously doesn't want me in the house, so that's why I'm staying with my uncle for 2 weeks before I go in there. And then even the night before I go into the rehab centre, she brings me back home and lets me stay at home. And she tells me, I wanted you to have one more night at home so you know what you're fighting for while you're in that rehab centre. You know what is here
Mm,
waiting for you when you come back out. Man,
mm.
I'm telling you, she's one in a million and one of the luckiest guys in the world. I go to
Shout out to
rehab.
Julie.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. The the thought process for before I go into rehab, I'm thinking I'm just going in to take a pill and I come out in 3 weeks and that's it. I'm cured. I'm cured. I don't gamble anymore. That was what I thought I was going in there for. So it still wasn't my choice sort of thing. I was going in there because Julie wanted me to go in there. So I wasn't like going in kicking and screaming, but it was Julie's idea. Julie said, complete this and you come back home. I'm like, yes, I'll do it because I want my daughters in my life. I want my wife in my life. I'll do it for them. One of the first things I hear in rehab is the counselor tell me, you'll never be able to love anyone else if you don't learn to love yourself. And I'm like, what is this hippie shit? I'm not fucking here to love myself. I already love my daughters. I already love my wife. I'm here to take a pill and get better. So that was my mentality going in there. About a week in, I realized like, wow, it's like my low self-esteem, my people pleasing, my impatience, just I had so many character defects that I thought were nothing to do with gambling. I actually accepted that gambling was the symptom. There was much deeper problems, and I'd use gambling to hide away from these problems. I'll give you an example of my people pleasing. I'll say yes to somebody in work when I actually want to say no, but because I don't want them to be upset with me, I'll say yes. I then have a little bit of resentment, like that buries deep down inside that I'm not even aware of. I hate myself a little bit because I feel like a coward. Instead of standing up for myself, I've just people pleased. And then to escape that self-hate that I don't even know is there, I'll go and gamble because I'm not comfortable with negative emotions.
Mm,
So it was just
mm.
rehab taught me little things like that. It was like a jigsaw, and I was just piecing all these puzzles together. And it was like, wow, like
Was this
this is it.
was this rehab specifically for gambling addiction, or was it all addiction?
All addictions. There was about 60 of us in there. I think 5 or 6 of us were gambling. Most of it was drink and drugs. But like you said about the modern meeting, just there's so much that across there's so much
Mm.
relatability across all of the addictions.
And so you also, it sounds like you were doing this for them. You were doing this like to get the pill. So like at this point you're in the rehab, even though like they're saying things that are resonating with you. If you had money, would you have continued to trade, you think, at that point?
Uh, so by the end of rehab, I realized everything I learned in there. Wow, I am looking at my addiction completely different. Like there's stuff there
Mm-hmm.
that I just wasn't even aware of. So it just made me look at my addiction at a new level. So once I came out of rehab, I remember the welcome home party. My wife's family are all there cheering me welcome home. And about
Oh,
10 minutes after being home, my mother-in-law has a list of jobs. Like she pulls out this scroll and has a list of jobs that I need to do because I've been away for 5 weeks in total from the house. I've got a 1 year old. My wife's 8 months pregnant. She's almost about to pop. So my schedule was pretty hectic as it was. My life was pretty busy. I didn't, I didn't prioritize it. The way I have always worded it is I didn't have time to do anything on my recovery. And in reality, I didn't prioritize my recovery. I could have made time for it, but I didn't. So 6 months later, I went back and I traded again. So my rehab was
oh,
April 2021. In October, so I think it was September up until October, I was trading again. I managed to convince Julie again, manipulate Julie, and luckily I didn't do that much financial damage. I wasn't able to get my hands on that much, but in
okay.
that moment I realized this addiction is like going to the gym. It's not just I take a pill and I'm cured. Everything I learned in rehab, I need to put into practice. I need to be practicing my recovery if I can on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis. Like once a month, have certain things that I now do each month. It's like a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I compare it to a muscle. They say like your addiction's doing press ups in the parking lot. I see it a different way where every time Bitcoin went up, I had no defense against it because I didn't work on myself. I didn't work on my recovery. So every time Bitcoin went mainstream, I was like, oh, I want to go back to it again. I want to go into it. Whereas now, because I do the biceps, because I do the reps, because I do my recovery reps, I've got strength. So when Bitcoin pops up on my news feed, I'm like, oh, it's hit a new all-time high, but it's okay. I know I can't do it. I started Bitcoin when it was 4,000 US dollars. I stopped when it was 64,000 US dollars. That's an increase of 1,500%, and I lost money. I'm like, I don't know anybody else who invests in something. It goes up 1,500% and they lose money. If that's not enough to show me I cannot do this and make money off it, I don't know what is. I just have to tell myself that and I'm fine. I'm
So
completely
true.
fine.
So true.
So yeah,
So
there's
what?
go
How?
on.
So how did it stick? Once October 2021 rolled around, how did it finally stick?
So I realized I need to hit this addiction from every angle. Gamblers Anonymous, gambling counseling, a psychotherapist that I saw in the rehab center, I started seeing privately outside of the rehab center. And I got different things from all of those things. Psychotherapist sort of went into my childhood and how I connected with my dad through gambling. Like I wasn't aware of that until I dived into it with the psychotherapist. Like there was a connection there to my dad because I know my dad liked to gamble, so I wanted to connect to him, so I wanted to gamble. So that just helped me sort of understand. That's why I love gambling so much. That's one of the reasons why I love gambling so much. It's actually an innocent thing. It's because I love my dad so much. That just helped me go a bit easier on myself and sort of forgive myself a bit more. The gambling counselor helped me understand how my brain works. The best thing I got from gambling counseling was I walked into a session one day and he's got this curtain over his chart, over his whiteboard. And I'm like, something good waiting behind this. So he pulls it off and it's a chart that starts up in the left corner, comes down, and it'll have little bits where it goes up and then it continues to go down. It'll pop up again, it continues to go down. This is across like a 20-year span. And I'm like, right, what's that? He's like, that up in the top left corner is you 12 years old where you started gambling. This in the bottom right corner is your finance to 32 years old. Every little bump is when you got a big win, but then it's swiftly followed by another decline. And then you'll get a win and it's swiftly followed by another decline. It just made me realize if I go back and gamble tomorrow, I might put a little dent in this chart, but I'm never getting back to zero. Like it's even if I have
Mm.
one of them life changing wins, it's impossible I'll ever get back to zero. I'm that far in, I'll never get there. So gambling was not the way out of the debt that gambling put me into. So that helped me understand that. And then the Gamblers Anonymous, I know I asked you a question when you were on my channel about was it the actual Gamblers Anonymous room or was it the people in there? It's the people. They call it the rooms, but it's the people that are in the rooms for me. I did 90 meetings in 90 days when I first started. Luckily, it was post. the pandemic, so the meetings were online on Zoom. So it was a lot more convenient for me to be able to do them on Zoom because I had two young children. I wasn't able to go out every night of the week. I think I got to about 83 meetings, and then I caught COVID at the end, so I didn't quite get the 90. But what I got across those 83 meetings where I realized the rooms that I related to. So I was doing Australian meetings, I was doing American meetings, I was doing English meetings. The English meetings were like 5 o'clock in the morning for me, but they're the ones that I related to best because those people gambled like me. Like the gambling's slightly different in America. Like just an example is you call it a parlay, we call it a double or a accumulator. Just little things like that. I found talking in my own language helped me relate more to it. And I to this day I still I'll try and do at least one. Some weeks I'll do all three. I have 3 meetings each week that are English meetings. They're 5 o'clock in the morning for me, and I do them before I go to work. I love. I say it's find your tribe. Like those people in there. The meetings used to be a chore. Now I look forward to going to them. It's like catching up. I very rarely talk about gambling. Similar to yourself, you say you don't have urges. I'll have things that pop in about Bitcoin, but I'm able to talk myself out of it. But most of the things I talk about in my Gamblers Anonymous rooms are just things I'm struggling with in life, like parenting or feeling like I'm not being supportive to Julie, and just getting general advice from people who've got life experience, not only with gambling, but just with life, and getting a different set of eyes to look at my problems. And I love it. The recovery community I've built within my meetings has been amazing. And then for the last 10 months, 8 months that I've been doing YouTube, I'm starting to build a community on there as well. And I originally started doing this to help others because I was like the stuff I've learned, the 20 years of pain and struggle that I've gone through, and now I've turned it all around. I want to pass that on to other people. I want to help other people get what I've got. What I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't even think about it. But what's actually happened is I'm building a community of more people that I relate to, I connect with, and I'm not only helping them. It's like a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. I'm helping them, and they're helping me. Hearing people's stories, hearing people comment on the videos, reading the comments. It's just the recovery community is the best part about it for me. The community that I've built between the rooms and between YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, just, obviously, we build a connection when we have the shared life experience, but to have met you over the last few weeks, and we both kind of I started my podcast, you started your YouTube channel right around the same time, and to be able to have that next level connection with you, it's just been amazing. And I guess that's my last question is tell us about the YouTube channel. Tell us how you started it, and what are your short and long-term goals for the channel?
So I've got my gambling counselor to thank for this a little bit. Like I'd walk like one session, I walked in and he's sitting there, he's all comfortable, he's got his legs crossed and he's got a thing of popcorn. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I just love hearing your stories every week. You should write a book. What have you got? What have you got for me this week? And he's just sitting there like he brought this popcorn as a prop just to make me laugh. And he genuinely said, you should write a book. Like the stories you've got, just the things that happen to you in your life and the things that you've done, you should write a book. And I always said that I will. I was like, one day I will. And then I was like, for years, it was in the back of my mind. Yeah, one day I'll start. One day I'll start. And I just like got overwhelmed with, I don't know how to write a book. I'm not very illiterate. I was like, you know what? A YouTube channel would be a little go-between. A YouTube channel would be something to get me started off. And yeah, I just, after about 4 months of, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I kept watching YouTube videos about it. And the advice was just press record, just start. So I was just at a nice scenic place in Sydney outside, put it on a table, on a little tripod on a table, press record. People were walking past, like looking at me, dead strange and everything. You can hear all the noises in the background, all the birds, all the water in the background. It's cringe looking back on it, but I'm so glad I just got started because every video I'm trying to improve something. I'm getting a little bit better with the audio, or I get a little bit better with the lighting, or my storytelling will improve a little bit, or I can relate to the audience a bit more. And yeah, like I say, I did it to help others. I did it because I want to inspire other people. At 20 years of pain and misery that I went through, I can use that as a good thing. I've never had jobs that I've been passionate about. I've always just worked to make money, which was always to gamble. I'm so passionate about this. Like gambling was the only thing I ever really cared about. Now recovery is the thing I really care about. And I just want to pass that on to others. Like it's so rewarding and fulfilling.
Mm.
Just getting comments saying like, I got one yesterday, someone saying, I'm on day 12. Thanks to you. Watching your video 12 days ago made me decide enough is enough and I'm turning it around. I'm on day 12 today. It's just that I can have that impact. I can turn that negative 20 years of my life around and I can have that impact on someone. I love it, man. There's no better fulfilling feeling than that. And then
Mm.
on the side of that, like you said, we've been in contact for a couple of weeks now. We've got something in the pipeline that we're going to do together a few weeks down the line. It's just, I'm meeting so many amazing people. I was going to say like myself, that's a little bit big headed, but like someone like yourself who I genuinely consider myself a good person, but I've done horrendous things because I was addicted to gambling. I see that in your story, hearing your story. I can see you're genuinely a good guy. You've done terrible things in the past and you've turned that around now and you just want to get better. And just connecting with people like yourself and people like Rob from One Day at a Time. Just, I'm the long term, I don't know. I'm still just dreaming. One day I could do this for a living. One day I could do this as a full-time job. I'd love that. I don't get to put as much time and effort into it as I'd like because I work 56 hours a week. I've got two young children, trying to balance the family life with that, with this as a hobby. But I do have a couple of sleepless nights editing videos, recording videos. I'm happy to do that. If one day, years down the line, I can sort of get to the point where I'm like, right, I'm ready to quit my job to pursue this as a job full time. I'd love that. I'd love to be able to do that, but I've got no immediate plans for it.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I've taken up way too much of your time. Your story, I mean, this is definitely going to be a two-parter. It's just, I mean, I had so many follow-up questions, but we'll save that for, like you said, we're gonna do something else in a couple weeks. Really excited for that. But yeah, so what is, where can people find you besides the Addicted Recovery YouTube channel? Where else can they find you?
Like I say, I'm very busy outside of doing this. I'm still doing this as a hobby, so I don't really have a TikTok or anything like that. I have an Instagram account that I created. I'd never used Instagram before November of last year when I started this channel. I just have an Instagram to link things around this channel. But yeah, my YouTube channel at Addicted Recovery is the only place you can find me. And then I speak to people on the comments there. Sometimes I'll get people to message me on Instagram if they want a bit more of a personal conversation, but no, solely on YouTube. You
Awesome.
apologized for taking up too much of my time. The fact that you're turning this into a two-part episode means I've taken up too much of your time. So I'd like to
No, no,
apologize to you as
no.
well,
I was,
Adam.
if I had popcorn, I would have brought it out too. I mean, you had me going. But no, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the Modern Meeting, and yeah, look forward to collaborating with you definitely down the road.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. I've really enjoyed this today.
All right, bud. All right, we'll be right back.